IRS collects approximately $2.4 trillion in annual tax revenue that funds most government operations and public services. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Ranking Member Graves, members of the committee, thanks for giving me the opportunity to testify today. The IRS has two equal parts of its mission, service and enforcement. And I've been very clear since I started that we need to excel at both. For the vast majority of American taxpayers, small businesses included, they're trying to wrestle with a complex tax code and get it right. We need to be there to educate them, give them world-class service. And for those who don't pay their taxes, we need to run rigorous compliance programs. My written testimony highlights our efforts for the small business community, especially focusing on outreach, but I want to highlight a few things we're doing here today. We've moved swiftly to implement the new laws in the last 15 months that were intended to help small businesses. We've put out over $9 billion in net operating loss carrybacks, which was part of the Recovery Act. The HIRE Act, which was signed into law last month, gives small businesses an important incentive to start hiring again, and we're working to implement that quickly. And we've already begun to mobilize and let small businesses know the new tax credit that's available for them to help buy insurance, health insurance for their employees. These actions reflect our commitment to service. As I said, most small business owners want to pay what they owe. They don't want to pay too much, and they certainly want to take all credits and deductions that are available to them. So we've redoubled our efforts to make sure small businesses know what credits, what deductions are available to them. At my prompting, the agency has also shown greater flexibility in dealing with small businesses. After all, the public trust depends on people believing that everyone's paying what they're due, what they owe. But this trust also demands that we be flexible and principled in dealing with taxpayers who are in financial trouble. This year, we're holding hundreds of special Saturday open houses staffed by my employees where we can resolve problems on the spot. And we're dedicating in May and June a number of those open houses just to small businesses to help them work through installment plans, help them clean up tax debt, help them work out settlements. We remain committed to service at the IRS. Today, as everybody knows, too many small business owners continue to struggle to make their payroll, secure lines of credit, provide health insurance coverage, contribute to their employees' retirement plans, and stay current with their taxes. As commissioner, I have sought to give our employees the guidance and discretion they need to assist small businesses with the service that they need. Let me end with a word about our employees and our employees' commitment to public service. This February, many of you may know, an individual flew a plane into an IRS building in Austin, killing one of our employees. We have no reason to believe that this attack could have been prevented or that it was part of an organized opposition to the agency. However, I continue as commissioner to be concerned that the IRS, and especially its employees who are doing the work of the American people, not be demonized. The IRS is filled with dedicated public servants who serve taxpayers every day. I'm very appreciative of the support that Congress gave the agency immediately after the attack, and I ask all members of this committee to help me in explaining to the vast majority of Americans that when they interact with the IRS, it's us getting a refund to them, it's us answering a question, and that it's at its core, we spend just as much time on service as we do on compliance. Closing, Madam Chairwoman, let me assure you that I appreciate that the Small Business Committee needs the IRS to provide service and education. We're going to continue to search for ways to do our job better, and I look forward to working with you and all the members of this committee as we move forward.
Thank you. Commissioner, starting in 2011, credit card companies and merchant banks will be required to verify the taxpayer's ID number for businesses they provide services for. If the bank cannot confirm the TIN, it is required to withhold 28% of the gross credit card transactions. If there is a mistake, this could have major consequences for honest small businesses. How will the IRS ensure that small firms are not harmed by paperwork?
Yeah, this
Errors.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the problems that many small businesses have, as you alluded to, is they're not hiring. Accountants keep their books every day. They have record-keeping issues. They have cash issues, et cetera. And our hope is actually that this regulation will help people with getting a simple statement from their credit card company about their gross receipts, which will help reduce the paperwork and let them file their taxes. I've been very clear from the outset that we think this piece of legislation that Congress passed is an important piece of legislation because information reporting helps us do our job and it helps simplify the job of small businesses. But we've been doing a lot of outreach both to the small business community and to the credit card community to make sure there's smooth implementation. And if we see issues like people having hard times getting with TINs, we won't hesitate to jump on it and help people sort through any issues.
Okay. Recent reports indicate that the average tax reform is up nearly 10% over last year, and that the IRS has already sent out $6 billion more in refunds than last year. Would you attribute the increase in reforms to provision contained in the Recovery Act, like the home buyer tax credit, increased sections 179 expensing, energy efficiency tax credits, and other refundable credits and deductions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly, a factor. I mean, there were major tax cuts and tax credits. A lot of those tax credits are now coming out in people's refunds. I mean, just the fact that you get an $8,000 tax credit for buying a house, that obviously there's a number of people who bought houses, and that's increased the average refund. As
of mid-March, the IRS has sent out a record $175 billion in refunds, and the average tax refund was over $3,000. However, at that time, nearly half of all taxpayers had not filed their returns. Do you have any update data on the amount of refunds the IRS has sent out, or if the average refund has changed?
Yeah, the average refund stayed around $3,000. About 90 million returns were filed as of Friday last week, which was our last count. We expect another 20 to 30 million this week, and then there's usually about 10 million extensions. And so this year, the trends, the only major change in trends that we have seen has been the increase in refund amount, which is clearly there's been a lot of tax law changes and it's attributable to that.
So let's talk about the increase in business audits that I mentioned in my opening statement. A recent study determined that audit hours of small businesses have increased by 34%, while large corporate audits has decreased by 33% between 2005 and 2009. Small firms are worried that small business audits will rise because the audits are easier and quicker to complete. Can you discuss why small business audits continue to rise? And will the IRS focus their enforcement efforts for closing the tax gap on large corporations rather than small businesses?
Yeah, there was a study released on Monday that I've got serious concerns about the way that it characterized our numbers. We're a pretty transparent organization. We have data books and reams of data. That study actually took a very specific number, which was audit hours of closed cases. And so if you look, they used 2005 as an example, which was an anomaly year because my predecessor had a campaign to close a number of cases and get all of the cases current that year. And they added up multiple years of audits for closed cases that year, which I think is a skewed statistic. And then they did the same thing with the small businesses. Let me give you the numbers that I think are the most relevant to see where our audit resources are spent.
Didn't this study also show that 3 out of 4 large corporations are not being audited by the IRS?
Well, let me give you